Welcome to the 2020 On-Farm Network Results Series. I'm Megan Burns, agronomist for the On-Farm Network program. We've been conducting single and double inoculant trials in soybeans for a number of years now. Let's take a look at our soybean double inoculant trial results from this year. So double inoculant trials compare soybeans with a single inoculant applied on the seed to soybeans with a double inoculant, so an in-furrow application in addition to the on-seed application of inoculant. In these trials, we're interested in quantifying the effect of these different inoculant management strategies on nodulation, on yield, and then we've also added seed quality analysis as well. So there is a minimum 2-year soybean history required for fields to be considered for this trial type. There has to have been at least 2 previous well-nodulated soybean crops in the last 10 years for fields where this trial will be conducted. So since the rhizobium that soybean used to form their nodules isn't native to our soils here, we have to allow some time for introduction and buildup through adequate inoculation before we look at reducing our inoculant management strategies. So that's why that 2-year requirement is present. So these are the locations of our 2020 double inoculant trials. There were 4 of them this year, concentrated in Western Manitoba. So the first thing that we take a look at in our soybean double inoculant trials is our nodulation rating. So this is the nodulation rating scale that we use in the on-farm network. So we're looking at sort of 3 different aspects. We're looking at how does the plant look visually? So doing a visual assessment of above ground biomass, taking a look at growth and vigor. We look at how many nodules are present on the roots, so digging up the roots, washing them off, and having a look at how many nodules are present. And then also where those nodules are distributed on the root mass, if they're gathered at the crown, or if they're more concentrated on the lateral roots, or if it's some combination of both. So all of these aspects and the whole story that you get from rating these 3 different things is important. But for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to focus on how many nodules are present. So making sure that the minimum number required to meet the end nutrition needs of the soybean crop are there in both types of inoculant management strategies that we're testing here. So the results you'll see in the coming slides for nodulation ratings are centered on how many nodules are present. Okay, so jumping into the results, starting with the first trial, there was no significant yield difference between single and double inoculated soybeans here. Nodulation ratings were very similar between the double and single inoculant treatments, and this is quite good nodulation on our rating scale, certainly adequate to meet the nitrogen nutrition needs of the soybean crop. So because there wasn't an increase in yield to offset the increase in cost using a double inoculant management strategy, that approximate cost is represented then as a loss in profit per acre because we're not seeing that extra income to offset that cost. So we have a similar story for the second trial. Again, no significant yield difference between single and double inoculated soybeans. We have very similar, the same actually, nodulation ratings here. It is lower, but this is still considered adequate nodulation, still meets the minimum requirements for a number of nodules. So there's more than 10 active nodules here. And again, similar, like same ratings between the 2 inoculant management strategies. Again, we're not seeing that increase in income to offset the cost of that double inoculant. Same type of results at the third trial, no significant yield difference, very similar and adequate nodulation ratings as well. And lastly, at the fourth trial, we have the same results again. So no significant yield difference, the same nodulation outcomes, and no increase in yield then to offset the cost of the product or the increased cost of double inoculant compared to single inoculant. Okay, so what's next for double inoculant trials? So we do have seed quality analysis underway, like I mentioned before, to determine if there's any difference between treatments, and we should have those results shortly. Beyond that, we will continue with double versus single inoculant trials as long as farmers are interested in continuing to test this for their fields. One thing we'll start to explore more using the data we've already gathered over the years, as well as the data that we'll continue to gather in the future, is the notion of applying that double inoculant just in case, or as a bit of an insurance type of thing. So how often is that actually paying off? How often is it necessary in terms of increasing the number of nodules over a single inoculant application? How often is it having an effect on yield? And what's kind of the cost over time of this just in case double inoculant strategy versus the frequency of benefiting from that double inoculation in terms of nodule numbers and yield? So these are some of the types of bigger picture questions that we hope to answer and would like to explore going forward as we continue with our inoculant trials. So a big thank you to all of our on-farm network participants. If you are interested in learning more, getting involved, or if you have a trial idea, please feel free to contact me at any time. Thank you.